Ms. Holly?
All councilors present and a quorum has been declared.
Okay, thank you. Up next on the agendas, we have the agenda approval.
Mayor,
Council Grego?
if there's no additions, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, please start voting.
The motion carried unanimously.
Okay. Thank you. Up next, we have citizen comments. This is the part of the agenda where we allow citizens to come up and make comments within a 3-minute time allowance. Ms. Holly, do you have any comment cards?
I don't have any comment cards today.
Okay, no comment cards today. Okay. All right. So we'll move on to ceremonial items. Chief?
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for having me. So tonight, I'd like to introduce you all to Justin Salazar. Where is he anyway? Justin, come on up here and stand by me, buddy. So, Justin is a Valley native raised in Alamosa, graduated from the Alamosa High School. After high school, Justin attended the Trinidad State Junior College Police Academy. Justin worked for the Alamosa County Sheriff's Department for 1.5 years before recently completing his training with the Alamosa Police Department. Justin has 2 children, Braden and Emiliana, with his wife Ashley. Justin's mother, Sally, and his father, Dale, both live in Alamosa along with his brothers, Mark, David, DJ, and Richard. Justin's father, Dale, worked as a police officer for the Alamosa Police Department for several years, and he was also one of my field training officers when I began with this department about 20 years ago, close to. So at this time, I am very excited to have this opportunity to introduce the City of Alamosa's newest police officer, Justin Salazar.
So I'd like to thank you guys and thank Chief for the opportunity to work with the City of Alamosa. As he said, I'm a Valley native. If you get on this dike and you look directly east, that's the neighborhood I grew up in. These are my wife right there, my kids, and my father, Dale Salazar, who has 20 years of law enforcement. So one of the main reasons why I came into law enforcement was I grew up around it. I remember Chief as he started off as an FTO. I remember Detective John Vasquez, when he was on FTO, he came over to the house for breakfast on Sunday when my dad was training him. So I've always grown up around law enforcement, always been involved in law enforcement in some way. All these guys who have worked with my father have always kept an eye on us. So in high school, you always had to park your car someplace else so that way you never get caught. So that was one of the things, you know. You always knew you had eyes on you. So that was one of the main reasons, and I went on a couple of ride-alongs. And I noticed that this job fits me. It's a problem-solving job. I always get excited to go towards danger to help somebody out. So this is one of the jobs that when I went on a ride-along in high school that I figured this would be my best fit. I get to help people out, always community-friendly. I'm always a friendly person, so this is one of the jobs that I have always wanted to be since high school. And now it's been a career of mine for the last 2 years. So I'm excited to be working here, and thank you guys again for the opportunity to let me be a part of the City of Alamosa.
All right, you're going to have a few comments up here before you sit down. The first one is going to be Councilor Carson. He's speaking to the mic. Thank you.
I just want to welcome you and say you're now, you've been part of a great team before, but these guys are awesome. They come very, very well prepared always, and the community loves them, and thank you. I've known your dad a long time. He's a great guy, and so I'm sure you'll be an awesome fit.
Thank you.
Councilor Hensley.
I have to say your energy really shows, and that you have obviously a love for our community, And so I think you're going to be a great fit and fit with all the rest of the officers that also have that same passion. But it's really neat to see how your passion shows through just in what you've just said just now. And so I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Councilor Brawls.
Going to say welcome. You have our confidence, and I always like homegrown employees. So
Thank you.
Glad you're from the area. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Councilor Griego.
Justin, thank you for coming to the family. I've had an opportunity to work with your dad. I'm probably the only one on this council that's had an opportunity, and also your mom. So I know you come from a good family, and we appreciate that you chose our department to come to. So welcome.
Thank you.
I also would like to thank you for joining the Alamosa team. I've been knowing you for a few years as well, and you and your family have done a lot in the community, and that's greatly appreciated. But what I liked about your story was that you said ever since you were a little boy, you grew up around law enforcement officers. So them being around you is proof that, and for the law enforcement officers in the back, you never know who's watching you and what kind of message you're sending out there, but looks like you've been doing a great job of sending positive vibes and good messages, and I hope you do the same so other kids would grow up in our community and want to join the law enforcement agency as well. So I wish you much success.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Up next on the agenda, we have consent calendar A.
Actually, Mayor, you have a proclamation to read
Oh,
first.
I'm sorry. Getting ahead of myself then. Proclamation to read, National Health Center Week Proclamation. Okay. Okay, we'll get started on that in a minute. Ms. Holly's going to go and get that for me.
If you want, Mayor, we can move to consent and then circle back to the National Health Center Week.
Okay, let's go ahead and do that. Thank you, Michael. Consent calendar A.
Mayor, I move that we approve consent calendar A.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussions? Okay, if not, let's start voting. Thank you very much.
The motion carried unanimously.
Okay, thank you, Eric.
And Mayor, I have Counselor Daniel made the motion, and who provided the second?
Okay. Okay, so now I will read the proclamation. Do we have anyone here in the audience who represents? Yes, come on up. If you would like to say a few words before I read the proclamation, we sure would welcome that.
You bet.
If
Hi.
you say your name and tell us a little bit.
Sounds good. Well, thank you, Mayor Coleman and Council. I am Stacy Robin, or you might hear Dr. Robin. I am a dentist and chief dental officer with Valleywide Health Systems. And I just want to say thank you, because the community health centers truly mean just an immense amount to me personally. And just the communities that we serve, we thank each and every one of you, because the differences that we're able to make every day and the advancements in all the communities and everything that we're able to offer not only to patients but also our employees, or I call them our teams. We really are a team, and we're able to make a difference by focusing on individualized, each person care and whole person care, and that's truly what we believe in. And without everyone's support, we wouldn't be able to offer that. So this is a fun week to just be able to celebrate that. And if anyone is free tomorrow, we do have a barbecue at Carroll Park, and that is at 6 p.m. So feel free to come by and you can get some food just to celebrate Community Health Center Week. And if you have any questions, if you see me around town, feel free to reach out to me. So thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Robin. And just stay there for a little bit. What I'll do is I'll read through this proclamation, and then council will come down and we'll present it to you, okay?
Thank you.
And once again, thank you so very much for your service to our community.
Thank you.
Whereas for over 50 years, community health centers have provided high-quality, affordable, comprehensive primary and preventive health care in our nation's underserved communities, delivering value to and having a significant impact on America's healthcare system. Whereas the country's largest primary care network, healthcare centers are the healthcare home for 28 million Americans in over 11,000 communities across the nation. 1 in every 12 people in the United States get their care in a community health center. Whereas health centers are a critical element of the health system, serving both rural and urban communities and often providing the only accessible and dispensable source of primary care in their communities. Nationwide health centers serve 1 in every 5 residents of rural areas. Whereas every day, health centers develop new approaches to integrating a wide range of services beyond primary care, including oral health, vision, behavioral health, and pharmacy services to meet the needs and challenges of their communities. Whereas health centers are governed by patient majority boards, ensuring that the patients of each health center are engaged in their own health care decisions. Whereas health centers are locally owned and operated small businesses that serve a critical economic engines, helping to power local economies by generating $54.6 billion in economic activity in some of the country's most economically deprived communities. Whereas health centers nationally employ more than 220,000 people, including physicians, nurses, physician assistants, and certified nurse midwives who work as part of a multidisciplinary clinical team designed to treat the whole patient. Whereas the health centers model to prove an effective means of overcoming barriers to healthcare access, including geography, income, and insurance status, improving healthcare outcomes, and reducing healthcare systems costs. Whereas health centers reduce overall cost of care by helping manage patients' chronic conditions, which keeps them out of costlier health care settings like hospitals and emergency rooms. Whereas health centers are on the front lines of emerging healthcare crisis, providing access to care for our nation's veterans, addressing the opioid epidemic, and responding to public health threats in the wake of national disasters. Whereas National Health Centers Week offers the opportunity to celebrate America's over 1,400 health center organizations with over 11,000 service delivery sites, their dedicated staff, board members, patients, and all those responsible for their continued success and growth since the first health centers opened their doors more than 50 years ago. Whereas during National Health Center Week, we celebrate the legacy of America's health centers and their vital role in shaping the past, present, and future of America's healthcare system. Now, therefore, I, Ty Coleman, Mayor of the City of Alamosa, and on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim August the 4th through the 10th of 2019 as National Health Center Week. I encourage all Americans to take part in this week by visiting their local health centers and celebrating the importance of partnership between America's health centers and the communities they serve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, council.
Mayor, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yes,
I-
we
I-
have some comments. If
Yeah,
anyone
I
like
know
to-
Dr. Robin left, but I think it's also important to recognize what Valley-Wide also brings to our community with the donations and their partnerships with La Puente and the other services they provide other than healthcare services. And so I think that as a community, we would be in a very different place without Valley-Wide in our community. And so I just wanted to mention that. I'm sorry she wasn't here still.
Thank you, Councilor Daniel. Any other comments? Okay, thank you very much. Up next, we have regular business. We have a presentation from an outside agency that we always look forward to hearing from, our lead team. Okay, come on up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good to see everyone.
Good to see you too.
I'll let you start. Do you have one?
I don't have any
You wanna say
updates. I'm
anything?
just here to support lead.
He's just here to help stand with me. I guess I'll just give you some numbers. So since the last time I saw you, we're actually up to 60 referrals, which is really, really good. We projected 100 for our grant, so we're already over halfway there, which is great. In Alamosa, there's a total of 38 referrals. So I've kind of broken them down between each of the law enforcement agencies for you guys. So in Alamosa, total 38 from APD, there's 30 referrals total. The Sheriff's Department has done a total of 8, and then Monte Vista PD, since we've been doing work with them, they've referred 22. And so it's been a really smooth transition adding on Monte Vista Police Department, having them part of our policy team. I feel it's been a great addition to our team, so that's been great. I've gotten some insights from the DA. Krista just sent me some information from their office as far as total filings, and she had made a comment that their total filings from 2017 to 2018 were down by 22%, which is a huge decrease. And when asking her about that, I think there's a few contributing factors to that here in Alamosa. You know, we have local access to behavioral health, MET services here in Alamosa, and as well as our program. And so as far as our team is staying super busy, going out, working with our participants out in the field. I just got a report from them the other day, and the breakdown that they showed me from going to appointments, to courts, to transportation, I mean, they're busy. They're on the go all the time. So our numbers have definitely kept them super busy. We did hire another case manager, so we have 3 total full-time case managers. We have 1 full-time in Rio Grande County, which is helpful. So she kind of takes care of that side of the county for us. the way we've kind of been going through our caseloads, because I know we say 60, so the way that our case managers really assess those really is about, how often they're utilizing resources, how often, how engaged they are with the case managers. And so when we go through those and we really tally those out, we also put people that are doing well, we put them on a hold status, so they're not as engaged. But if they do have something come up, they can always come back, re-engage if they need anything, and they all know that. And so there are some that we have on hold, there are some that we have no contact with at all. And unfortunately, we've lost 2 of our participants, and our most recent was due to health conditions. So that was it takes a toll on our team because they get really close with them. So that's been really hard, and learning how to help them work through those and process those. We've attended 3 conferences, and out of those 3, we've presented at 2. I was invited to attend a national convening in Washington, D.C., and so this concept of rural diversion programs and collaboration is really getting a lot of highlights and interest, and so they're really wanting to know and ask us lots of questions, how we get our teams to collaborate with other agencies. And I always have to brag about our community because we have a great collaboration here in the Valley, that without that we wouldn't be able to be as successful as we are. So and I think also learning how to work with each other, and through whether it's resources or working together with a particular person that we're working with, and making sure that we're following through with things. So being able to speak at that level for our community is super exciting for me. And then we're working currently on updating our policy, because now that we've been going a year, we've noticed that there's things that we're needing to update, to change, we need to add, and now that we're bringing on other agencies too, so there's just some things that we're needing to tweak, and we'll be working on that. We're starting to get some data in, so our evaluation team up in Denver, they're starting to get some information and insights back on our gain assessment that we utilize, so they're pulling data from that, and they're starting to send some reports, and all looking very positive. So excited to start getting that distributed out to the community too. And also the cost savings. So they're starting to work on the cost savings analysis, so we're working with our partners to start getting that information so they can start working on that.
I want to share also with council that we're starting to, it's not a fun process, but we're going to start putting pen to paper as far as when this ends from a grant perspective. That's June 2020. And so when we started this, it felt like it was a long ways away. But now that we're working on the annual budget for next year, that's only 6 months of next year from a grant perspective. The lead group has been having regular conversations with the state to try to identify if there's going to be future funding, what that might look like if it is there, and those types of things. I think there's definitely interest at the state, but it's a matter of the right people talking to the individuals and the legislature and those types of things. And so it's an interesting, there's not much known at the state level from a future funding perspective. We are going to start looking at other types of grants, and as we look at the budget, the other item that staff had been working with CRP on was LEAD is very specific on who qualifies and how someone gets into that. But obviously from a municipal offender perspective, we have other offenders that could use something similar to that in order to try to figure out why they're offending and to lower recidivism and those types of things. So overall, through the municipal court budget, we're trying to evaluate what funds are available, and can we pull those away maybe from the jail and put towards alternative sentencing for the judge, but then also this big thing from a LEAD perspective. And so the next few months I think are going to be important, because for everyone who's been hired for this program, they need a sense of security and to know that this is something that's going to be there. And so we take that very seriously, and it's going to be some tough discussions, but we need to figure out, if there are no grants, what's the minimum requirements from a funding perspective and those types of things. So we are kind of starting a little bit of those discussions.
Councilor Daniel.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
So I just want to say thank you. I'm, as always, impressed with the things that you're doing.
And in some of the work that I do in my regular job, I get to see the collaborations you've had, and I get to hear from clients themselves how much they've appreciated the support and the networking and the kinds of things that are happening in their lives that wouldn't be happening without the LEAD program and your team. And I also want to say thank you for being there last night at the night out. It was really nice to see your team there and to be able to have the conversations about what LEAD is. I know that's been one of your big missions, is to educate everyone about LEAD. And I feel like the conversations I'm hearing now from just people on the street about how this is working, they're getting a better understanding. How is the misperception of it being kind of a snitch program going? Are you still hearing that from people who are being referred, or is it getting a little bit easier to say, no, that's not our thing?
So of course it's still there, and even when I talk to other programs throughout the nation, as far as that goes, it always seems to be an issue, just because of the relation with law enforcement and not getting put in jail. So there's always that aspect. The one thing that we have noticed, though, is that we have participants we've worked with, or even other people who see what we have done, that are able to speak up and say, no, that's not what that is. And that, I think, has more value coming from people who are within those circles than anything else. So it's nice when we hear that. We have people who defend us.
Councilor Carson?
I just wanted to reiterate what Councilor Daniel said. It is a great program, and I've heard from people on the street as well too. They really like what you guys are doing. I do believe that stigma is kind of getting, going away a little bit, and so that's a good thing. But I do appreciate what you guys are doing. People have very positive feedback on it, and thank you guys for doing that.
Thank you.
Work. Appreciate it.
Councilor Griego? Thank you, Councilor Carson.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
I just want to thank you guys for the hard work you're doing, and I hope we get that funding, because what I like about the program, instead of going to jail, there's an alternative where keep you out of jail. And that's why jail shouldn't be the answer to these guys. So if we can help people out, I hope we can get that funding. And like you say, as you put these figures together, I hope they recognize that the program is working and we can do something with it. So thank you very much.
Oh, no. Sorry, he was just asking if so our building, we moved. So we left our building on 500 State. We're now over at the new Rialto. So we have a nice big space. We have new meeting rooms, which is nice. So if you guys have a chance to stop by, come by and say hi, and we'll give you a tour.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I, too, have heard a lot of good things from some of the participants who say that you all are doing a good job of meeting them where they are and not casting, judgment on them. And I think sometimes when organizations approach people like a judgmental type of approach, it shuns them away. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad that you all are not doing that. And it looks like the numbers are picking up around the valley as well. Could you share with us maybe one or two success stories of someone who's probably been through the program without identifying the person by any chance?
Sure. Success is always so different. And, our people are always going to be up and down, and it's never going to be consistent. But I think for the most part, one thing I would have to say with some of our people who, when they do go down, though, they always come back, which is a positive, great sign, knowing that they have somewhere to turn to, even when they do fall off, or, even if they feel like they failed to themselves, they still come back. And that's a huge thing, because we want people to know that, that support's there, whether you're doing good or you're not. And so knowing that people are comfortable enough to be able to come back when they are at their lowest says a lot. And so for us, those are always a good success. Even though they're struggling, they may have, gone off their path, they still come back and they still are willing to get re-engaged and say, okay, what do I need to do to get going back? And so that for us is always a real positive. I think, we've had participants who've gone into treatment, and when they go into treatment, our collaboration with ATC, especially because they're here, our case managers are able to go over there and work with their case managers to help with the transition plan to help them with their aftercare, because we noticed that was one of the biggest gaps is the aftercare piece for people when they leave treatment, just because they come back to the same environment that they left. And so trying to help them adjust to that and to reintegrate into the community, that can often be very, very hard. And sometimes we hear it's also very lonely, because they left a group that they were a part of, inactive for so long to coming back, and then they don't have that. And so having the support from the case managers to be there to help them through that has been something we hear from our participants.
Okay. Thank you so very much. And council, any other comments? Not, keep up the great work.
Thank you,
and,
guys. Thank you. It's good to see you.
It's always good to see you. Okay. Up next, we have business brought forward by city staff, Public Works, the public hearing and second reading of ordinance number 15-2019. Is that going to be you, Eric?
It is, Mayor, and this is really just a cleanup issue. We discovered that the public hearing for this ordinance, which was held when the ordinance was passed, was not properly noticed, and so we re-noticed the public hearing for this ordinance. I don't think council needs any further background. If there's anybody here, though, because of that re-notice who wants to speak on this, then council can certainly take those comments and anything brought forward into consideration and reconsider the action. So we need a public hearing, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, so at this time, we will open it up for a public hearing and the second reading of ordinance number 15-2019. If we have anyone in the audience who would like to make any comments in regards to this ordinance, please feel free to come up to the podium. Seeing that we have no one, I would now close the public hearing and bring it back to council.
Mayor, I move that we approve ordinance number 15-2019.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not, please start voting. Okay, Ms. Holly.
The motion carried unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Looks like up next we have resolution number 14-2019. Is that you too, Eric?
It is, and again, this may seem familiar to you as well, because a couple resolutions ago you considered substantial compliance of an application for annexation of the Comfort Inn property that was filed by Skyline Hospitality. They have, since that time, amended their application. They have 2 lots totaling 8 acres near the Comfort Inn, and the original application was for about 3 acres right at the inn property itself. They have determined they would like to annex the other tract, which is just north of that and contains right now just 1 house. And so this application is to amend their application to annex both tracts. Staff has reviewed that application, and it's staff's opinion that it is in compliance, I should say amended application, and that it is in compliance with section 31-12-107 sub 1 of the Colorado Revised Statutes. That's what you're considering tonight, is whether the application itself is in compliance. Details on whether annexation should proceed, and if so, on what conditions will be considered in future actions before council.
Okay, Councilor Griego.
Well, since staff's already looked at it and they agree that it's ready to go, I'll make a motion that we pass resolution number 14, 2019.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, please start voting.
The motion carried unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Up next, item 2, finance, resolution number 12-2019. Judy?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. We have just a couple of, well, it's kind of a long amendment, but there's a lot going on right now. And just a couple of things I'd like to point out. If you look on the source, you'll notice that several of the items say AUG plan financing. And if you remember, in 2017, we borrowed money for the augmentation plan. And thanks to some forward thinking by staff, Reed, Heather, and Eric, they added some items in there that weren't really augmentation items, but they're items that we could use the financing for in case we didn't get all the components for the financing or for the augmentation plan in time, because we're limited to 3 years to spend the money that we borrowed. So that's why there's a lot of items on there that you probably say that doesn't look like augmentation things, but that's why it's being funded from that. So also I would note that all of the items on here have been approved by council previous to this amendment, so there's not anything new. We'll just start with the general fund. We did get additional funding from DOLA for the Washington edition to do some engineering for the street plan over there. Heather was able to get a mini grant from DOLA SLB DRG for the Homeless Coalition for facilitation of the meetings. We got money also from, excuse me, the local marketing district for the art festival. She wrote a couple more grants from COG, and we got $5,000 for a snowplow, $5,000 for the artscape program. Dawn Chapman was able to get an equipment grant from the Department of Public Safety for some fire equipment. We got donations from San Luis Valley Health and the Sector 8 Health Sector Partnership for the health-related scholarships, which the scholarships total $4,000, and the city puts in $500 to bring them to the $4,000 total. The One Beacon Insurance, they overcharged us for one of the premiums, and so they refunded that to us. We had 2 lots, actually it says 3 lots, but there was actually 2 lots that were sold over in where the SID is, the Street Improvement District. So when we get those prepaid lots, then what we do is pay down the debt to reduce the interest that we'll end up paying over time. We have the levy needs assessment. The levy was included in the augmentation financing in the original, so we should have a bill from the state for $75,000 for the core drilling and the however they decide to do that. They're supposed to put in the 425, and we put in 75,000 for that levy needs assessment. We were able to recover $2,600 for on the insurance for a PD support vehicle that was damaged. In the expense category for the general fund, the council approved some stopgap funding for the JAG grant because those funds were kind of slow to come in, and they felt that they should go ahead and support that program. I'm just putting the $6,000 back in the insurance line item, so we won't be over budget. There's the Homeless Coalition facilitation, the levy needs assessment. Basically, it's just the expenditure for the revenues that's up above. So the local art festival, the mini grant for the snowplow and for artscape. On the SID prepayments is where I'll write the check to San Luis Valley Federal for those prepayments. They're not exactly the same because they also, when they pay off the SID, there's a gas and electric assessment, and those are not borrowed funds. Those the city funded themselves, and so they're already paid. So I won't make any additional payments for those. The COFA air redundancy is some months ago. Part of our internet service went down, and so the library was without internet for about 4 or 5 days. And this $1,200 will help Jim to create redundancy so the libraries, public computers won't be out of service, because there's a lot of people that come every day and use those. So that's the money that we would do so people won't be inconvenienced by that. The salaries for economic development, all of those, excuse me, personnel items are for the new economic development director's salary. The bulk of that is funded from finance, because when we went to the state collection of our sales tax, we reduced our staff by 1. So the bulk of the finance, the additional economic development salary is covered by the reduction of staff in finance. And they're considering that we have a new position, we've added some funding for her outreach program. After she came on board, it was discovered that the tax returns hadn't been filed for the ACID for 17 and 18, so we paid Walsmith and Bateman to do the tax returns. That's the healthcare scholarship that I spoke of earlier. And there's Don's fire equipment. We originally had budgeted $203,000 for First Street design, and then it was discovered that he should be able to finish the design for the whole street for $67,500. So then we'll pay him for that. That's Reynolds Engineering. The $150,000 is for the Washington Street engineering. We had already spent some money, which was in the budget, so that's just the additional money. The transfer out of $280,000 is the balance that we owe for the golf course watering system. The $29,750 carried forward is for landscaping and beautification. That's mostly for the water smarts projects, and that was approved in the 2018 budget, but we weren't able to get the planning done in time to get the work done last year, so we just moved those forward. That's moved to economic development. That's from the finance department. The reimbursement expense is to put the money back into PD's budget for vehicle repairs. In the enterprise fund, Deacon was able to obtain a rebate for the recycling program for $23,808. The transfer in is for a Victorious Storm Drainage Project Engineering, and that's coming from the capital reserve account. Membranes for the water treatment plant, half of that was budgeted in 2018, and then the balance of that will come from the fund balance in the enterprise fund. The water tower painting supervision, it was determined that would be a good idea because we had it painted and it wasn't properly supervised, and so we had to have it done again. So in order to avoid that, this time we have us paying someone to supervise the painting. Eric was able and Heather were able to obtain surface water rights on the Alamosa ditch or the Alamosa River. And so that financing is for purchase of those surface water rights. And then engineering is for partly for the surface water rights, and then the engineer usually spends time determining if we're getting the right value and what we're going to need to do. So those are for the engineering services. We had budgeted $50,000 for repairs to the vacuum truck for the sanitation department in 2018, and then we didn't roll that forward in the CIP. So long story short, it ended up only costing $25,000, so that's all I put in. There's the expense for the Victoria Storm Drainage, engineering, $10,000 for the Alamosa Lift Station, engineering. Part of that is for a permit, and then $18,700 is for the engineering part. They need to do some rebuild work on the Riverwood Lift Station, rebuild and reline the well at the Craft Lift Station. As you can see, we have a lot of capital projects in the enterprise fund right now. The levy needs assessment, the augmentation plan is recorded in the enterprise fund, and so in order to get it into the general fund where we're actually going to spend the money, we do a transfer, an internal transfer. There's a $17,000 wastewater discharge permit because we had to move the outlet from one location to the other, so we had to pay an additional fee for the permit. And then we're doing, we did extra work to the roof at the wastewater treatment plant. In the capital reserves, in the budget adjustment I did in March, I recorded the expense part for that, where the fire department transferred the money they received from the Sanford Fire Department. I recorded that part, but I didn't record where it came into the capital reserve account, so that's just a correction. The transfer in is for a community rec vehicle. It's in the line item that says vehicle replacement, but unless you do the transfer into capital reserve, it doesn't keep it separated. And then the transfer out is for that this Victoria Stormwater. Community recreation has a lot going on. They got, Andy got a $40,000 grant from the Community Conservation Initiative for conservation work on the new Sheffis property. We were, thanks I think to Councilman Garrigo, we got a $5,000 donation from La Llave for the Children Enrichment Program at the library. The $49,250 donation from a private donor for the improvements at the Mom Trail. The Tree Coalition grant was $1,500. There was an additional $39,825 in the Inspire grant that came through. And then SLV Go is part of the Inspire grant. They get part of the Inspire money, and then they gave us money back to help pay for a recreation intern that John is overseeing. The children enrichment expenses, that'll go into Solea's budget for the donation from La Llave, and then Andy will use the conservation money to pay for conservation efforts. I think they'll do, I don't know exactly what they'll be doing there, improving the trails and just making sure that things aren't eroded and that kind of work. The $49,250 from the Mom donation will be used to purchase a walk bridge. It'll be the engineering and the purchase of the bridge. They had some money left from donations from 2018 that Andy used to buy heaters so the heaters and the installations at the ice rink to make it more comfortable for the spectators and the staff. And then he'll purchase trees for landscaping, and he may have already purchased those, and it just hasn't come through our office yet. The council approved an additional $150 for the Montana Zool Park. Then that's the $39,825 that they'll be passing through from the Inspire grant, and then the seasonal salaries is the $1983 that they received back from SLV Go. And then we'll transfer from the general fund to capital projects, the $280 for the golf course front 9 watering system, and we estimate that it should be finished for the $280, which brings that total project to $780.
So we do have just one quick correction. We had a lot of eyes working on these things, and there is one correction that is needed. Under enterprise, the water tower painting of $45,000 to the supervision of the tower painting, the augmentation plan the financing can't fund that. That is to come from the fund balance. So if you do approve this resolution, just make it so noted as that.
Okay, thank you, Heather. Councilor Vihil.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Judy, for your presentation.
Uh-huh.
I had a few questions.
Okay.
The augmentation financing
Yes.
that you indicated that we're using for other things, what was that initial amount? Was it
$4.3 million.
4.3 million?
4.3.
Okay, and we've already purchased the water? Like
Most
okay.
of it.
Okay.
So if you recall, we had a work session, I want to say earlier in the year, and that's when we had, when our public works director had left, and we were reviewing what was left from a water augmentation. So we do still have some cost we anticipate. So we identified, they won't be done in time though, for the requirements under the financing. So we talked about doing some of the lift stations and some of those other items that still need to be done, but then that frees up money without any time limitations for those items still identified for the augmentation plan.
So then my question is can we do that?
Yes. And what remains from an augmentation plan perspective is we anticipate to have some minimal cost for infrastructure, for the surface water and how it feeds back in and some stuff like that. There's 2 water rights that we won't be able to purchase the full amount until the decree on how much water rights are actually there. It's dependent on what that final judgment is. We also have not finished the negotiation for the storage leases. That could be as much as $672,000. So in total, there's legal, engineering, so some things like that. So the remaining cost for the augmentation is about $1.6 million. So when we factored all of that in, that's still left almost $700,000 for lift stations, water lines, levee system that are listed as being okay for projects. And then we are doing some of those other lift stations and stuff in order to save up that 1.6 million and meet the clock that's ticking for the use of the funds.
So then where are we gonna get that 1.6 from after the clock runs out?
We're reserving those funds
Oh,
in
so-
the fund balance.
In the fund balance, okay.
Yeah, it's like a
We're not gonna have to
shift.
go get another loan.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
I was kind of worried about that.
Yes.
All right. And then the next question I have is, for the Malm Trail, we got it was donated money in the amount of 49,250.
Yes.
The full donation was 50,000 to
Okay.
SLV Go, but for their admin costs, they kept a percentage of it.
Okay. So my question is, under expenses, then it says the bridge is that gonna cost 49,250?
That's the expected cost, yeah. That was the estimated cost that I got from Public Works.
What are we gonna do? Where's the rest of the money gonna come from to upkeep the trail? Because I thought we communicated to folks it was gonna be less than 50,000 to start off with, and then operating expenses from here on out would be coming out of our budget.
So the trail, or the bridge with the engineering and the sides, it might be a little bit less than 49, but then I'll have to pull Andy's email that has phase 1, which is the bridge and some of the trail design. But then when we presented it to you guys, there's that flap grant that they're going after, which is then the construction of the rest of it, in addition to some seating and signage, enhanced signage, and all of that kind of stuff. But if we don't get the flap grant, we're still gonna have the trail, and the bridge is a majority of what that trail cost is.
Okay. So I guess I'm gonna ask, when we get the final numbers and the work is done, can we get that, please? Thank you.
Absolutely, and I can resend the estimates as well.
Okay, Council Brawls. Thank you, Council Rehill.
Yeah, my question is general. We're approving this because this is not part of the 2019 budget.
That's correct.
But they are items that have been brought to you and you have approved through other meetings.
Okay. Council Daniel, please.
Mayor, I move that we approve resolution number 12, 2019, amending ordinance 28-2018 with the change that the water tower painting is not coming out of the augmentation, it's coming out of the reserves.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, please start voting.
Thank you.
Okay, thank
Council
you.
And it's the
Mayor.
water
Thank you very
tower oversight painting. But yes, but that's close enough.
The motion
Thank you.
carried unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Up next, Parks and Recreation, Resolution Number 13-2019. Heather?
So this is very exciting. We are getting very close to closing out this project. We've had some great partners. And what this is we were calling it the Alamosa Riparian Park. It's the Sheffis property that Western Rivers Conservancy led the effort to purchase. And that purchase was made possible through a lot of different partners. Obviously, GOCO contributed a significant amount through that grant, but the Lohr Foundation, Alamosa County, as well as Regis and Sarah Sheffis, the Gates Family Foundation, the Oplect Foundation, El Pomar, San Luis Valley Federal Bank, San Luis Valley Health, Ranchera Blanca Foundation, Ken Caldwell, and Jamie Lawful. So quite a list of community partners who believe in this project and wanted to protect this property. It is amazing property. As we've discussed with council in the past, one of the requirements for GOCO is that there has to be a conservation easement. And so we are working with Western Rivers and GOCO on finalizing that. We did attach what that draft language for a conservation easement would look like. It will allow low impact recreational use. It's in line with everything we've talked about using the property for. And I think Andy and his crew have even applied for other grants to start with enhancements out there. back when we first discussed this, council had authorized the use of $20,000. So that's the amount that was previously authorized. That's our purchase price for this 1 whatever million dollar piece of property. So it's exciting, and this motion is just to allow the mayor to to sign any of the documentation to make that final transfer and the conservation easement and those activities.
Thank you, Heather. Councilor Beal.
Yeah, just one question for you, Heather. Are the trails out there, as indicated on the map, already established, or they are going to be?
There's a bunch of trails out there.
Jess, do you know that? So right now, we just have social trails, and then the ones on the map would be the ones we want that are more defined. Is that correct?
Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Grego.
Well, if there's no further questions, this is a big addition to the city, and to get over $1 million for $20,000 is it's a big deal. So that I'll make a motion that we pass resolution number 13-2019.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please start voting.
The motion carried unanimously.
Thank you, Ms. Harlan. Okay, up next, under City Clerk, Municipal Court, second reading and public hearing of ordinance number 17-2019.
Okay, this is just the ordinance that's going to approve the IGA with the county for us to conduct our coordinated election. All the terms of the IGA are the same as they have been in the past election, and we've coordinated with the county since we were first able to in 1993. So
Okay.
we need a public hearing for this one.
Okay, so at this time, I will open it up for a public hearing of ordinance number 17-2019. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to make any comments in regard to this ordinance, please come up to the podium. Okay, seeing that no one is coming to the podium, I will now close the public hearing and bring it back to council. Councilor Vigil.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to I always say this every year. Every year we bring this up, but shout out to Melanie Woodard at the county who runs these elections. They do a really good job. It's very professional. So with that, I move that we approve ordinance number 17-2019.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please start voting. Ms. Holly?
The motion carried unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Up next, we have City Manager Legal, the first reading of ordinance number 18-2019.
Thank you, Mayor. Those of you who are candidates for election at this fall election got a brief preview of a piece of this ordinance, because one of the things that it does is better defines in our local Fair Campaign Practices Act, which you just passed recently, defines when a person becomes a candidate. And that is always a question and was overlooked when we were drafting that, partly because it was overlooked by some of the models that we were using. But really, I think it's an important thing to do. And so this ordinance adds a provision to the FCPA that says you become a candidate as soon as you make a public announcement of your candidacy, and couple that with either an expenditure or a receipt of a contribution for your campaign. So that's the most important part of this ordinance. It does a couple other cleanup things. In reviewing some of the provisions of the code, we noted that the term qualified as an elector is used in both the code and the charter. Qualified elector used to be a defined term in state election statutes. It is no longer, and now registered elector is used. So that's changed by this ordinance in the code. To change it in the charter will require a charter amendment, and we want to kind of hold that. There are a number of housekeeping charter amendments that need to be done that have been sitting on the back burner for a while, and this will be one more of those. And then finally, there was a typographical error. When we passed the original FCPA, we had two Section 5-21s. the codifiers noticed that, of course, and they recodified, but I didn't like the numbers they used, so this changes the numbering to numbers that I like for correcting that typographical error.
Thank you, Eric. Okay, council? Councilor Hensley, I'm sorry.
That's all right. If there's no further discussion, I move that we approve ordinance number 18, 2019 on first reading and set for a public hearing on August 21st, 2019 at 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter may be heard.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please start voting. Thank you. Okay,
The motion carried unanimously.
thank you. Up next, we have, under item B, motion authorizing the city manager to sign documents releasing approximately 3 acres of jointly owned city and county property for the purpose of the construction of a regional animal center. Is that you, Heather?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This is another exciting topic to be able to have for our community. You might remember it was probably about 4 years ago, we worked jointly with the county to add an indoor bathroom for the animal shelter. They had been using a porta potty. And as part of that discussion, it was clear that the facility they're using is not what they need to serve as an animal shelter. The owner did not feel that the facility was going to last much longer, but we were able to work out if we add the bathroom, it's probably stable enough that it could last another 5 years and give the city and county and the Humane League time to think through where do we want to build a new shelter, how can we fundraise for this, all of those types of things. And so that was approximately 4 years ago. And as we started down that path, Darius Allen began a communication with the Dumb Friends League up in Denver, and they have a very solid base of fundraising, and the timing of it was amazing because they were discussing how strategically they wanted to do more in rural Colorado, realizing that there's animals outside of just the metro area that needed their services. And so they had actually already designed what they would see as a rural animal service clinic. And so when Commissioner Allen contacted them, a lot of the stars aligned, and they became interested in our community in the valley. They were interested in being able to bring resources here that would better serve the needs of not only stray dogs, but also cats and other animals. And from a perspective for the city and county, this is important because it's a service that's important for our community and our residents, but also we use it through law enforcement when we're picking up strays. And so we do have a professional contract with the Humane League for providing those services. So the Shelters Board or the Dumb Friends League Board has approved the construction of almost a $2 million facility. Additionally, they have approved the operations for that facility, which could be almost an annual net loss of $300,000 that they would be funding. So this is, it's almost mind-boggling how much of an amazing opportunity this is. But the city and county want to remain committed to this project and also be good partners with this new partner. And one of the areas we are looking at on the map up there is just north of Airport Road, and you can see a little bit of the airport in that bottom right corner. And then north of that property that's hatched is the industrial park on one side, and then you can see a little bit of the rec center ice rink multi-purpose facility. So that area that's cross-hatched for some time, from a city perspective, we have been wanting to work with the county to untangle that and try to get it out from underneath the FAA obligations and those types of things. So obviously for us, this is a great location that we feel that if we can provide this land as an incentive and a strong support of for this project, we feel good in making that recommendation. The other reason is when we look at some of the property that either the city owns individually or the county owns individually, it's not near utilities as well as this is. or it's closer to residents or other types of neighborhoods that maybe is not the most appropriate for an animal shelter. And so we feel that somewhere in this shaded area, there's 3 acres that would make sense for us to donate to the project. There's going to be different stages of this in regards to, we will need to sign some paperwork to take it out from under the FAA. I think there's talk of using some of the fundraising through the Humane League, because there has to be fair market value to get the FAA to let it go. And so there's just going to be some different documents that we'll probably need to sign. So that's why this motion is a little bit broad, because there are going to be documents related to the FAA and then the documents to sell the property to the Humane League.
Okay. All righty, Councilor Griego.
I just had one comment. I know we had looked at other properties and when we had discussions with the Dumb Friends League. Are they happy with this property? Were they in agreement that they'd rather go here than?
Yes,
Yeah.
and we'll still want to work with them on visibility.
Okay.
You know, that's one of the other sites
Main
was
thing.
on the highway and those. But yes, they recognize the limitations of utilities of that location, as well as some access issues. So yes, they are happy with this, and they want to move quickly.
Do we have a dollar value of what this property is worth? Or we're gonna get one?
We're thinking it's probably around 20,000. We do have an appraisal, so there's the math of, you take that, divide by 30 acres, and then times the 3.
All right, thank you.
Councilor Vio.
Heather, when do they want to break ground?
This year. Yeah, they really do want to move quickly. And so it's going to depend on how quickly FAA will let them start working before that process is completely done. But they may want to do some ground prep and stuff, anticipating that the FAA will release it. I think it's either 60 or 90 days. It's a multiple of 3. 60 or 90-day process for the FAA to release it.
Councilor Rawls.
I was going to say, I think this is a very good project, and I think it's a win for Alamosa. So good job to the staff whoever brought this in. So thank you.
Councilor Daniel.
Thank you. I was actually going to echo what Councilor Broyle said and say if no one has any other comments, I would move that we approve the city manager to sign the documents releasing these 3 acres for this project to move forward.
I'll go ahead and second. I was just going to add also, I think it is a great project, and I also like the fact that there's going to be a section for cats, which is another real need that we have here in our community.
Thank you, Councilor Hensley. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, just a quick thank you also to Commissioner Allen. He spearheaded this thing, and he needs some loving. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. All right, please start voting.
The motion carried unanimously.
Okay, thank you. All righty. Up next, we have a discussion on the ballot title for a dedicated street sales tax. They're going to be...
It's going to be me, Mayor. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What we're looking for tonight is direction from council on language for the street sales tax ballot language to bring to you when you consider a resolution adopting the ballot language at your, I think, September 4th meeting, but anyway, an upcoming meeting. Option 1 of this language was what was discussed with you during your work session that I had to miss. And options 2 and 3 I developed after Heather brought back some of your reactions out of the work session. And so what I was doing based on what I understood to be some concerns out of the work session was moving the limitation language that the half-cent sales tax may only be used for those streets that are identified on the resolution naming the streets, move that higher up into the question. So option 2 moves, both 2 and 3 move that high up into the question. Option 2, the difference really between options 2 and 3 is that option 2 is a little wordier because it repeats back again at the end of the question that limitation. And in other words, it kind of says it twice, whereas option 3 just says, well, we don't need to say it twice. We already said it at the beginning of the question, and so it's a little bit shorter question. My preference is for option 3. I like the comments that you had to move that limitation up. The only thing that you lose by moving that limitation up is that it moves the 1/2 cent per dollar spent, sort of the, this is a minimal tax thing, down. So that's the trade-off you make. You can't monkey with the first phrase. That's got to be the way it's got to be because of the Tabor requirements.
Counselor Daniel.
Thank you, Mayor.
Then
And
Counselor Carson.
refresh my memory, but we did add additional streets to the list, like for potential projects if we needed to have sign, like that buffer, so they were all included in that resolution, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Counselor Carson.
I'm gonna have to go back to number 1. I think it binds us the most, and I really like number 1 because it gives us less wiggle room, I think, in the end. And from a position of transparency and the ballot language, I think that we should bind ourselves as much as we can.
Okay. Counselor Brawls.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that this is cast in stone. What I don't want to have happen is 5, 6 years down the road, we start substituting streets for different streets. I mean, if we can't, I guess when you get down to it and a street cannot be improved for some reason, then we don't improve the street. Well, we give that tax back to the taxpayer, rather than try to substitute and change and rearrange.
Well, we can't substitute. So that resolution, the fact that you adopted a resolution and that resolution is in the ballot language locks us into it. Now, in regards to if for some reason we come to a street and we can't do it, then what I would argue is we would go to that list of if there's excess funds, it can be used. I think you guys listed 4 streets. So it's still identified in the resolution. It's not just coming up with some other random street. It's still there and has been identified in that resolution.
Yeah, that sounds good, because, I trust us, but I don't trust the future council. And so I want to make sure everybody's tied in tight.
To that point, and to Counselor Carson's point, all 3 of these options do that. So all 3 of these options bind this tax to only those streets, to being only used for those streets that are identified in that resolution. And so really the difference amongst them is how effective you think these questions will be to be understood by the voters, number 1, and to get, I think you want a favorable vote by the voters, number 2. So they're really, what's before you isn't so much a question of have we appropriately limited everything, because all 3 of them do that. It's a question of what language is most understandable and most likely to get a positive vote. I think that's really what you're thinking about. And you guys are the experts on getting votes. I'm a good writer, but I'm no kind of politician.
Well, I was going to say, I do like the phrase, no other purpose. I mean, I think that helps lock it in. So I do like that phrase. I think people that vote for it will like that too. So, I just want to make sure that when we go out and represent this is what it is and it won't change. And people be disappointed down the road because of a street not being improved.
I agree.
Counselor Daniel.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
I do think I'm very much a fan of redundancy in most cases, and I repeat things. Did it not go?
I don't think you're on.
Oh, here we go. Sorry about that. I was saying I'm very much a fan of redundancy in some cases, and I repeat things a lot. But I like the third option because it doesn't do that, and I think sometimes when we repeat things in ballot language, it can get really confusing for people. And so I do prefer, I think, the third option based on what we've been discussing and what we have talked about at at the work session. So I just want to say thank you, Eric, for your work on this. But that one is, I mean, I guess if you have to have a favorite ballot language, that one's my favorite.
Thank you, Councilor Daniel. Councilor Griego.
In our work session, we also discussed the fact that we were going to still continue, even though these streets are dedicated with this, in this election, we're still going to continue working with the other streets and making sure that we keep on top of that.
Yes, so the resolution includes the 400,000 annually for the maintenance and the sidewalk. And then I've modified all the presentation and materials to highlight that as well.
Good. The comment I want to make is, it's about time we do something like this. In the 36 years that I've been here, all we hear is about streets, streets, streets. And even though we put $500,000 each year into streets, it's not enough. It seems like we're just spinning our wheels. So I hope the people out there see that, and that they see that we're gearing towards finally getting some of these streets fixed and getting them done, instead of just, we fix one and then 3 or 4 more are damaged, you know. So this will put us ahead of the whole program. So thanks, staff, for looking at that vision. And like I said, people are always asking, the first thing that comes out of their mouth, are you going to fix my streets? You know, so thank you.
And I know on the agenda this is listed as a discussion, but honestly, if we can have a motion tonight, that would be extremely helpful. I've got at least 2, if not 3, presentations next week. And I can tell you, when I did the presentation this week, when I come to the slide and say this is the actual wording, like, people sit up and they pay attention and they look, and we're making sure we're pointing out the key words. And so the more I can have the language for those presentations, I think it's a critical part of that presentation.
Okay. Any other comments? Councilor Hensley, I apologize.
Oh, no, you're good. I was actually just going to move. I do also like option 3. I feel like it's the cleanest. It all says the same things. It's just which order it is. So I'll go ahead and make a motion that we adopt option 3.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Eric, thank you for your work on that. I think option 3 looks good as well, and moving it up helped quite a bit. I'm not really a big fan of this legal terminology that they make us use, but this is better. Okay. Everybody start voting. Okay, Ms. Holly.
The motion passed 6-1 with Councilor Carson casting the no vote.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, council. Okay, up next we have committee reports. Do we have any committee reports? Councilor Daniel.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to report I was unable to attend the last meeting, and I did have a report from the library board that if you all have not read their quarterly report, please check it out. They are doing some amazing things in the children's and youth section, and really have been working hard. Their circulation is going up, which we did not anticipate, because so many people are doing so many things online, and we have people using our library. We have people checking out books, and those are numbers are increasing. And so it's been really neat to see the work that the library has put in, and they're going to bring hopefully some more teen programs, and really looking at expanding that. And so I just wanted to share that with everyone. And if you haven't had a chance to read the report, please do pick through it. There are some really cool pictures in there and some other things that are going on.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Daniel. Any other committee reports? Okay, if not, we have staff announcements.
Thank you, Mayor. We just have one quick one from Public Works on equipment that we've purchased. Greg, if you want to come up to the microphone.
Thank you. So we had advertised for a new dump truck. That advertisement had gone out before I'd started, but we ended up getting 4 bids, and the best bid ended up being a Western Star. It's going to be outfitted with a sander spreader type thing, as well as a plow. So that'll be a new addition to our fleet. Came in under budget. which was great. And I talked with Tim, our mechanic, and he thinks that the brand and everything that this brand offers as far as parts and pieces and things are all things that they can maintain in the garage. So really excited to have a new piece of equipment in the fleet, and even more excited that it was under budget.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Up next, any other staff announcements, Heather? Okay.
No, sir.
All right. Up next, we have local liquor licensing authority actions. We have a liquor licensing item, a needs and desires hearing. Is that going to be you, Miss Holly, or Eric?
That'll be me, Mayor.
Okay.
So what we have in front of you is needs and desires hearing for Woody's Q Shack for a new hotel restaurant license at 703 Main Street. Woody's Q Shack, as you know, has been operating out at Cattails and operating pursuant to the license that's held by the golf board out there. Since they're moving away, the license needs to be that license stays with the golf board, and Woody's Q Shack needs a new license. This was kind of a hiccup in the process that was just realized halfway through, and so the application was amended. The state is allowing that amendment process to go forward. It was reposted as well. And what we will be doing tonight is holding the public hearing for the needs and desires of the public for a hotel restaurant license at this 703 Main Street location. And the mayor will open the hearing, and we'll have a presentation from Woody's Q Shack about the license. And then anybody wishing to speak with respect to the needs and desires of the neighborhood regarding that license is welcome to come to the podium, identify your name and whether you are a resident of the city of Alamosa, and then let council know what your thoughts are on the matter. And council will then consider those thoughts and issues. The hearing will be closed. Council will take the matter under consideration. Frequently, council will decide whether it is going to grant the license or deny the license at this meeting, and then instruct me to prepare written findings consistent with that decision. If it's a difficult decision, the council may delay making a decision until the following meeting, at which time it would consider proposed written findings, both granting and denying, and make the decision then after chewing on the issue for a while. So with that, Mayor, if you want to open the public hearing, we'll have Woody's Q Shack come up and make a presentation.
Okay, at this time, I would open up the needs and desires public hearing. We will have the team from the Woody's Q Shack to come up and start it off.
Thanks for having us. As you guys know, we moved our restaurant from Cattails Golf Course to downtown Alamosa, the former Nestle Toll House building. So we are looking for a new liquor license at that location. We've partnered up with Square Peg Brew Works as well as Colorado Farm Brewery. So our hopes is to sell their beer in our restaurant, and as well as a couple of domestic beers as well. We've been open for 3 weeks tomorrow. Business is great. I think you've probably all seen our building. I think it looks pretty phenomenal. We're excited to be downtown. One of the biggest reasons we wanted to be downtown is because of to hopefully take advantage of the downtown design plan. That puts us right in the heart of where all the action will be. And yeah, like I said, we're excited to be down there. While we were out at the golf course, we had no liquor license violations, no issues with our liquor license whatsoever. So I feel that we've represented the community well as far as that goes as well. We have collected signatures. I have a bunch of signatures with us.
Okay.
If you want to present those, is a petition, I assume, is what you've got there.
Yeah, right.
Could you inform council how many signatures you have on that petition?
It's right around 120, I believe.
And how were those collected?
We went door to door, primarily. And then we put it out there through social media that we were seeking signatures, so we had people come to us as well. We were looking for signatures when we were set up at Summerfest on the Rio. And then we've also been collecting some signatures in the restaurant as well.
Okay, if you want to hand those to Counselor Broyles on the end there, he can start passing them down, and we'll mark that as Exhibit A. And then I assume that did you bring the notice that was posted on the premises as well?
Yes, I have both of them, the
Okay.
original one and the amendment.
Okay, so we'll mark those, the original one as Exhibit B and the amendment as Exhibit C. And I'll just have you confirm when those were posted?
The original one was posted, we weren't even open yet. It was
I think
I think it was July 1st.
July 1st, okay. And then the amendment was posted on this Monday morning, a couple days ago.
Okay, and the clerk can confirm that notice was published in the paper on July 26th? So if you want to just bring those notices, Exhibit B and C, up here to the clerk, we can keep those. I don't believe council needs to look at those, but you're welcome to if you want. Council, does anybody have questions for the representatives from Woody's?
Counselor Vio.
Yeah, you mentioned there was a hiccup from the license that was at the golf course and getting a new one. Was that hiccup on our end or the?
No, the original application was filed as an application for transfer of that license. And then the golf course said, hey, wait a minute, you're not allowed to transfer that license. Your lease or it's a sublease with us that gives you the ability to use it, says that we keep it at the end of your lease. And so they said, oh yeah, you're right. We'll file an application for a new license instead of a transfer of the license.
Yeah, for me.
Counselor Griego.
A couple questions. Kyle, can you tell us a little bit about your operation, days open, times, so forth?
Yeah, we're open Tuesday through Saturday from 11 a.m. We try to stay open till 8 o'clock, but it's been until we sell out of food. It's only been a couple days since we've been open that we've actually made it to 8 o'clock.
So Kyle, you mentioned also that you all were operating with a liquor license at the golf course, and you had no violations at all during that time period, am I correct?
Correct.
Okay. Counselor Hensley.
So that's awesome that you didn't have any violations. Obviously, you're a little bit busier and have more staff. So are you doing certain things to train them, et cetera, so to keep?
Yes, yeah, all of our trainers will be, or all of our servers actually will be tip certified.
Okay.
And then I've been talking with Robert Jackson to get a machine that will read
Awesome.
IDs.
That's awesome.
Just basically cuts down on the service time as well as double checks everything.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Counselor Daniel.
Thank you, Mayor. So my question was about the training, so thank you for doing that. And I notice on the map that if I understand the way these are, the black outline also outlines the sidewalk. So in addition to the patio, you would have alcohol allowed on the sidewalk on whatever side of
The
the
east side.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Okay. Do we have any concerns with that from a city clerk perspective or anything being on the sidewalk?
No, he's already went to Public Works and got it approved.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Broyles.
How'd you determine that you wanted to serve liquor part of your operation?
Well, my opinion is that barbecue and beer go really well together. We have a lot of people actually coming in the door. We had a customer come in the door actually today, asked if we had our liquor license, and we said no, and they turned around and walked right back out. I think it's important to be successful in the food business. I think that you need to serve at least beer. I've done studies on it, and restaurants that do serve beer are much more, at least beer, are much more successful than those that do not. So I feel it just adds to what we're already doing.
Counselor Daniel and
thank-
Counselor Hensley next. Sorry.
Thank you. I'm sorry, that brought up another question. It doesn't look like you're planning to serve any hard alcohol, that it's just beer and wine?
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay, thank you.
Counselor Hensley.
I don't really have a question. I just personally think we're trying to build a vibrant downtown, And I think that little corner area is really becoming something, and it's definitely drawing in traffic. And that idea of, obviously, when the weather's nice, people even going from place to place. So personally, I really think that the need is there, with the idea that, again, when you get me having background in restaurant business, that idea of being able to provide liquor or alcohol, not saying that everybody has to have it, but having that as an option does really support and help the business. But I truly especially think in that area with all the different events and things like that, and it really allows even more options for everybody. And sometimes when it gets really busy, obviously you go to certain locations and there's lines, big waits. And so what this does is give another restaurant and so more choices, which I just think continues to help with all the plans we have for the downtown.
I think, very good, Councilor Hensley. I would suggest that maybe we finish the public discussion or the public hearing and then move into council discussion for points similar to those.
Sounds good. Okay. All right. You good, Councilor Vijo? Okay. All right. So if we have no other questions of Woody's Q-Shack team, I'll let them go ahead and have a seat.
Thank
And
you.
You're welcome. Thank you all. And at this time, if we have anyone in the audience who would like to voice support or opposition for this during this hearing, please come up to the podium, state your name, and state your comments.
Good evening, Council. My name is Matt Beckner. I'm the president of Early Iron. As a fellow friend and fellow club member with Kyle Woodward, I'd like to give a character statement on his behalf of the kind of person Kyle and his family are for the community. He's dedicated to what he does. He's a professional at what he does. As far as adding alcohol to his establishment, I know that he will do it in a responsible manner. He's not adding it to add the atmosphere of alcohol to his restaurant, but rather the addition to enhance his meal and to bring customers in that like to pair the two tastings together. I know people that go to his restaurant don't go there to drink, but they go there to add alcohol to the tasting of his food, just to blend their experience, their barbecue experience. And as far as Kyle and his character, I've seen him run his business both through him hiring me to do work through Ion Graphics for his business, and he's impeccable on his professionalism of how he handles himself and the public. So as far as that goes, I'd like to add that to consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Do we have anyone else who would like to come up to the podium, make any comments? Okay, seeing no one else is coming to the podium, I will close this hearing and bring it back to council and to our city attorney. Okay, Councilor Griego.
Now we can make some comments instead of making them in the. No, I really appreciate that you've come downtown. We've got several vacant buildings down there to occupy those buildings. And we are trying to create an atmosphere down there where you can choose all these different restaurants to enjoy if you want Mexican food or pizza or barbecue. So this is a great step in that direction. And you mentioned our downtown design. I think this will fit in that picture. So thank you so much for that.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, I too would like to thank you for what you're doing, and running a restaurant is one of the toughest business to run and operate. And to see that you all have had the success that you've had over the years, and then to move downtown and occupy a vacant building, and even make that building stand out even more so for people who visit our community and our existing community members, truly means a lot. It helps our small town from becoming a ghost town when we have a business that's able to come in and fill in those vacant spaces. So I think it's very good that you all are doing what you're doing in our community. Okay, so Councilor Vigil.
Yeah, sorry, Mayor, one more thing. Just reiterate all what you all have said tonight. Also, another positive that they've moved downtown is they've hired 6 or 7 more people. It's just like more jobs, more money downtown. I feel this energy in our town, and especially in our downtown. It's just it's about to pop off.
Yes.
And if we have business owners like Kyle down there, it's just going to be better. So I will be in support of this liquor license. I was there yesterday for lunch. I got there early because I've got the "we're out of meat" sign a few times, but it'll be good for them. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Vigil. Councilor Griego.
With that, Mayor, if there's no further questions, I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and approve this liquor license and direct our city attorney to do the findings.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, start voting.
The motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you, Council. All right, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. Oh, we will. Okay. Up next on the agenda, we have consent calendar B. Councilor Daniel?
Mayor, I move that we approve consent calendar B.
Thank you. We have a motion. We have a motion and a second. Thank you all. Any further discussion? If not, please start voting. Okay. All right. Okay, up next on the agenda, we have council comments. Councilor Hensley.
Alrighty, so I would like to, I've been actually excited to do this. I have been very honored to serve the citizens of Alamosa for the last 4 years on City Council. So I am going to definitely, I would like to rerun, and I'm throwing my name in the hat for Ward 1. I feel like at this point, when I look at the last 4 years, there are so many things that have happened, such as the LEAD program that came up and talked about all their wins today. We've done different parks. We've had grants for different outdoor activities, adding to the quality of life. We've built the multi-purpose ice rink, roller skating rink, pickleball area. We've had, since I've been with City Council, we've had stronger partnerships with the golf course. We've had the artscape. New economic development is housed now under the City of Alamosa, that position, the ranch plan, the downtown plan, and these are just touching on a few things in my 4 years here. I really feel like I add a collaborative spirit. I have a true passion for the City of Alamosa, and I bring a lot of energy and excitement for it. I feel like I'm very open-minded. I listen to all points of view before I make a decision. And also I've been a very active member now of CML, being now the current president of Colorado Municipal League, which I feel has really, it's something I really have a passion for as well. But what I really like about it is I'm able to bring our local voice to the Municipal League at a state level, but then also I'm the liaison to also bring what's happening at CML to our local level. And so anyway, I am officially throwing my name in the hat to run for Ward 1 for City Council.
Thank you, Councilor Hensley, and we wish you much success. You've done a lot for council over the past 4 years, and Ward 1 has been very well represented. Thank you. Councilor Daniel.
Thank you, Mayor. I
You're
actually
welcome.
have two things. But the first is I just really wanted to thank council and the staff. At our previous meeting, at the end of last month, I had a family emergency. My father-in-law had emergency surgery, and he's doing well. He's doing great. But I had to leave the meeting, and all I got was text asking how he was, asking how our family was. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate that support. So thank you all for that. It meant a lot to me and my family. In addition to Counselor Hensley running, because she hit her button faster than I. So I won't repeat everything that she has said in the last 4 years, but I too have been honored to be able to serve in 2 different capacities the last 4 years, and it's really been an honor to get to know our community in a very different way. I was very thankful to have been elected to finish out Counselor Johnson's term, and then thankful to council for reappointing me to finish out Mayor Coleman's term. And so I'm really hoping this year I get my own term. That would be nice. And so I am running for the at-large position. And some of the things, in addition to all of the accomplishments that Councilor Hensley mentioned, we have really worked, I think, on developing a very strong city staff and creating partnerships internally and internal customer service that I think has been amazing. The healthcare sector partnerships and the other partnerships that the city's been integral in having have really helped us move forward. The Uniform Development Code, while that's not like a super sexy kind of thing, has been very important to what we're doing with the downtown development plan, with the comprehensive plan. All of those things fit together. And I've been really thankful and grateful to have been a part of that. In addition, I think being on city council has given me a perspective to take to some of the other state task force and state things that I am on in roles, being on the safety net committee for the behavioral health transformation task force. And I'm very honored to be a part of that. And I bring Alamosa's perspective, a small rural town, and policy discussion to those meetings, as well as being on the Caring for Colorado board, which has helped. One of the things they were very interested in is what it's like to be an elected official and understanding that perspective and the work that they're doing. And so I've really been honored by the citizens in Alamosa to be able to support what we have going on in our community. And I am hoping that I get to continue this work. It's been one of the things I feel has really shaped me as a person, and I hope that the things that I've brought to council and brought to the community have been seen in a positive light, and really have enjoyed hearing from people about their perspective about what is going on with the city and where their concerns are and what they think we're doing well. And it's really been enlightening and humbling all at the same time. So I too am putting my name in the hat, and we'll see how it goes this year. So thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Daniel, and thank you for the work you've done in your last term here on City Council, and I wish you the best as well. And you've done a lot of collaborating in the community, and that's been greatly appreciated. Okay, Councilor Griego.
I just want to say that I have enjoyed working with both of you young ladies. What you brought to the table is tremendous. You know, you've done hard work, and I really enjoyed, and I hope we can continue to work with you.
Thank you, Mayor. Charlie, you're not gonna, okay. No, I hate to somber this a little bit, but I grew up in El Paso, Texas, and I have a lot of friends and family down there. And I'm speaking solely by myself. I'm not representing the city when I say some of these things, but just, of course, thoughts and prayers, but also action. Things need to get done, and I would urge, if you care, I would urge you to talk to our representation in Washington, D.C., to get off their butts and get something done so that this doesn't happen again, because this is becoming the new normal in America, and that's not okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Vigil. Okay, I have a few comments. Just yesterday, the Denver Post came to town, and they wanted to get a feel of what it's like to hear what goes on in rural communities like Alamosa. And I would like to thank Heather Brooks for arranging the event. It was a success last night, and Councilor Vigil was there Jess Jolly was there, and the Recreation Center hosted them very well, and they were very appreciative for the community support from the community members who came out there to give their side of the story from a rural community's perspective. So thank you for that. Also, I want to thank Councilor Hensley for running the meeting on July the 17th when I was out at banking school, and you all did a real cool job. I mean, it was pretty neat looking at you on that computer. So I really like whoever came up with that idea. It was a great idea. Councilor Daniel, I believe I believe everybody collaborated to come up with something to make that work, and it worked out well. But that's all I have for counselor comments at this time. Okay? All right. All right, so at this time, I am going, Councilor Daniel?
I was just going to move that we go into executive
Okay.
session.
Okay, at this time, go ahead.
Okay, I move that we go into executive session pursuant to Colorado Revised Statutes 24-6-4024A, B, and E to discuss acquisition of a drainage easement, and then also pursuant to 24-6-4024F for personnel matters to finish the evaluation of the city attorney.
We have a motion. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, please start voting. Is it working? So it's not working, so what I'm going to do is start it over real quick, okay? All right, let's try it now. There we go. Okay.
Motion carried unanimously.
This meeting is officially adjourned, and we will be entering.
No, not adjourned.
See, we're not asleep.
I'm rushing. Okay, my bad. It's not adjourned yet. We're about to enter into executive session. And after we come out of executive session, no further business will be discussed, and I then will adjourn the meeting. All right, thank you.